It's the anniversary of 9/11, the worst catastrophe of my generation. Thousands murdered in the name of Islam. 18 years later, America is still fighting a war in Afghanistan, where thousands more have died. Of course, the New York Times perfectly summed up the liberal whitewash of that event. They said 9/11 was when airplanes took aim at the World Trade Center. You know, those pesky airplanes, they'll take aim. Nothing new with Islam, you see. The 2,000 people didn't just die, they were killed. And actually, to be precise, it was 2,977 people killed that day, including those on the planes. If you're rounding, you'd say 3,000, not 2,000. But at least the New York Times mentioned it at all. Trudeau thought so little of 9/11 that he selected it as the date to call his election, to make the day about him, a day to celebrate him, a day to buy billboards and posters and TV ads with his face on it, smirking at you. It's a celebration day for him. No surprise, you know that when there was that brief overlap when Justin Trudeau won the 2015 election, but before he was sworn in, so he was the Prime Minister designate, but Stephen Harper was the actual Prime Minister. Well, it was the anniversary of Corporal Nathan Cirillo's murder. He was the Canadian soldier who was standing guard at the National War Memorial when an ISIS terrorist walked up to him and murdered him, shooting him at point-blank range before bursting into Parliament in a hail of gunfire. So it was October, and it was the anniversary of Cirillo's murder. So Harper was laying a wreath, and Trudeau thought, well, I guess I better attend too, since I don't want Harper to get all the photo ops. So you can be sure that was the last time Trudeau laid a wreath for Cirillo. It's not that he doesn't care. He actually cares in reverse. He doesn't want to hurt the feelings of ISIS terrorists anywhere by remembering the people they've murdered. That's what he cares about. It's the same reason he gave $10.5 million to Omar Khadr. Oh, Trudeau will bask in the credit of other people's selflessness on 9/11. You know that many passenger planes were diverted from the U.S. to Newfoundland on 9/11 for security reasons. And so many Newfoundlanders took those passengers into their homes out of friendship and loyalty. It was a beautiful story, a Canadian story. Really a Newfoundland story, to be accurate, and there's a Broadway musical about it, which is good, but Trudeau can't get enough of that. The play, he co-opted the play. You saw him there standing in front of the play. He made it about him. He actually bought tickets for every UN ambassador in New York, all the dictatorships, and invited them to the play as his guest, as if he were the big shot, as opposed to the taxpayers who footed the bill. Most of those ambassadors didn't show up, by the way. I mean, they didn't care. They probably supported the terrorists. They were busy people with many invitations each evening. It's not just the childish prime minister of a small country who's obviously just looking for photo ops. No one actually came that night. But my point is, Trudeau spent more time talking about himself at Come From Away, a musical about 9/11, than he actually does at any 9/11 commemoration. He just put out a tweet today. He made this tweet, or his staff did, whatevs. And that's it. Let's get that boring stuff out of the way. Today's about me. So on to the election he goes. And look at the Globe and Mail today. Ottawa blocks RCMP on SNC inquiry. Huge front page story. And you see those three little blurbs at the top there? Mounties investigating possible obstruction of justice, source says. Government cites cabinet confidentiality, denies access to witnesses and documents. Probe to be frozen during election campaign under RCMP internal guidelines. And then right at the bottom there's a caption, I don't know if you can see it, it says, the Prime Minister's office says it had no role in the decision by the Privy Council clerk to prevent individuals from talking with the RCMP about the snc-lavalin affair. And now, I just really showed you the headlines there, and those are all the facts you need right there. I don't even need to read the story to you. You've got it now. The RCMP says, well, shucks, we can't investigate the obstruction of justice by Justin Trudeau because, well, he's obstructing our investigation into obstruction. So what can you do? Oh, well, better throw in the towel because the election is here and we sure wouldn't want to embarrass a Liberal? Is that a rule? The RCMP made a huge prosecution out of Conservative Senator Mike Duffy over his expense account, which was paid back by the Conservative Chief of Staff, Nigel Wright, by the way. And by the way, it was all permitted under the Senate's vague expensing rules. And In the end, Duffy was acquitted. He was acquitted. So the RCMP didn't seem to have a problem with a year-long fishing expedition when nothing was at stake. Nigel Wright paid the money back that was in question, even though in the end no law was broken. And it was over 90 grand in travel expenses. But firing the Attorney General, as Justin Trudeau did, because she wouldn't cave in to a massive campaign of illegal pressure from Trudeau and his cronies to call off a criminal prosecution of a corrupt company known for bribing politicians in Canada and around the world, and then obstructing the investigation in that scandal. Yeah, welcome to the Libranos. Even more corrupt than Chrétien and Paul Martin liberals, if you can even think that's possible. You know, my new book comes out today. It's called The Libranos, What the Media Won't Tell You About Justin Trudeau's Corruption. I'll be honest, months ago when we were deciding what focus to take, I thought, is corruption really the main thing? Or is it more his incompetence? Or is it how Trudeau's so fake? He's an imposter, he's a fake feminist, for example. We chose corruption, the Libranos theme, and holy cow, were we ever right. But back to that front page of the Globe for a moment. Ottawa blocks RCMP. That was the big headline. Well, not really. I mean, I've lived in Ottawa. It's a pleasant city of about 1 million people on the Ottawa River, just across from Quebec. Nice place, lots of museums, lots of bureaucrats, easy living, easy living. Ottawa didn't block anything. Why are you blaming the city? The city didn't blame anything. Why are you blaming them? Justin Trudeau blocked the RCMP, not Ottawa. Now, sure, they quoted the Prime Minister's office as saying that the clerk of the Privy Council blocked the RCMP. Well, he's just a staffer who reports to Trudeau. He's an assistant, handpicked by Trudeau himself. I wouldn't even say his name, he's so inconsequential. It would be like saying, Justin Trudeau's office receptionist blocked the RCMP and wouldn't let them in. The lady who answers the phone, Trudeau's 2 nannies, blocked the RCMP, so they bravely gave up. Hey guys, we really did want to execute this search warrant against Trudeau, but the nannies won't let us in, so what can you do? Yeah, the nannies are blocking us. No, Trudeau is blocking the RCMP. Remember the last clerk of the Privy Council, the disgraced Michael Wernick? He was up to his eyeballs in this snc-lavalin scandal himself. He actually took a phone call from snc-lavalin, who hired his predecessor clerk of the Privy Council to lobby him. And Michael Wernick didn't report that lobbying to the lobbying commissioner. He kept it a secret, even though it was illegal. Let me say that again. snc-lavalin hired the former clerk of the Privy Council to lobby Trudeau's current clerk of the Privy Council, and he did. And Trudeau's clerk kept that a secret instead of disclosing it or reporting that to the lobbying commissioner. You remember that kook? Remember him?
I worry about the rising tide of incitements to violence when people use terms like treason and traitor in open discourse. Those are the words that lead to assassination. I'm worried that somebody's going to be shot in this country this year during the political campaign.
What a disgraceful, disgraceful man. He really was a kook. Well, the new guy is just as much in Trudeau's pocket, but a little bit less unhinged in public. He's got some emotional self-control. Ottawa didn't block the RCMP. Trudeau's hand-picked servant blocked it at Trudeau's request. We know that Trudeau has been obstructing this for months because he's guilty as hell. That is not my opinion. That is the opinion and conclusion and conviction of Mario Dion, the ethics commissioner and conflict of interest commissioner. Trudeau calls him a judge, who convicted Trudeau of his 5th violation of the Conflict of Interest Act last month. No other Canadian Prime Minister has been convicted of breaking the law even once in history. Trudeau, 5 times now. And yet even Mario Dion says he didn't know the half of it. In his report, Dion said he wasn't allowed to get to the bottom of it because there were 9 witnesses informed our office that they had information they believed to be relevant, but that could not be disclosed because according to them, the information would reveal a confidence. So Trudeau banned them from talking to him, ordered them not to talk to him. Now, Dion is a toothless tiger. All he could do was write about it, which he did well. But the RCMP, what's their excuse? They have the power to get a search warrant for any document, to get a subpoena for any witness. Just because Trudeau claims something is subject to cabinet confidentiality doesn't mean that it's immune to criminal prosecution. To use an extreme example, if there, God forbid, were a cabinet meeting to order the murder of someone, I know that's extreme, but I'm trying to make a point. And if that person was then murdered, The Prime Minister couldn't block the RCMP by saying, "Gee, sorry, it's all confidential. You can't talk to anyone or get any documents because what can I say? Cabinet privilege." That's an absurd example, but the essence is the same. Police have the right to investigate any crime, and they have the duty to do so also. And if there are genuinely confidential matters that cannot be shown to the public at large, that's fine. Those documents can be handled confidentially, kept from the public. They can be withheld from the media. There can be publication bans on certain facts. Documents can be blacked out. But there is no reason why police officers with top secret clearance cannot see any material. They have an oath to conduct themselves lawfully. They're not going to leak to the media. That's what Trudeau does, not the cops. So why haven't the RCMP moved on Trudeau, or even just moved to interview the 9 witnesses that Mario Dion says wanted to talk but have been banned from talking? Why has the RCMP taken this all in stride? Even as the corrupt Lebrano, Gerald has come back to run the show. Butts resigned from the PMO in disgrace this spring, trying to be the scapegoat of it. That is an implicit admission of wrongdoing. And then he just decided, nah, who cares? I mean, obviously, he's pretty confident the cops are on a leash. He wouldn't come back from New York, where he was working. Otherwise, the whole thing is very strange. This isn't even a partisan thing anymore. Here's a letter from 5 former Canadian attorneys general asking the RCMP to investigate. There were others, too, including the former Liberal Attorney General of Ontario. They've all said the RCMP needs to investigate, but the RCMP won't. Why not? Why not? They went for a year or two on Mike Duffy's rent expenses, but not on this massive, deep corruption scandal that the former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould herself says is a scandal. Why not? Well, you know why. Or maybe you don't know. Here's some images that will explain. That smitten lady who's hugging and kissing Trudeau, that embracer, that's Brenda Lucki, Trudeau's hand-picked RCMP commissioner. Here's how the CBC described her last year. She's a diversity hire. Lucki, a 32-year veteran of the force, has been serving as the commanding officer of the RCMP's training academy in Saskatchewan, where she was focused on bolstering diversity in the ranks. She has served at divisions in Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, worked with the United Nations. Perfect. Perfect. Chef's kiss. That's a perfect Trudeau cop, ain't she? So she was appointed to the RCMP by Trudeau at the same time that the battle between Trudeau and Jody Wilson-Raybould was heating up. Trudeau appointed Lucki to be his good luck charm. She's the insurance policy for him. That's why he picked her. That was in 2018. But by the time Canada Day 2019 came around, just a few months ago, when that hugging and kissing happened, everything had already exploded in the story. Lucki had already received the letter from the attorneys general. Trudeau was being investigated by the ethics commissioner. And it was there and then that Lucki met Trudeau and embraced her. And she embraced him right back. And they were both in public. You know, that's Trudeau's move. Embrace a woman in public in a place where if she were to recoil, it would make a scene. So it sort of locks her in. He's counting on her not resisting. Or maybe she was happy to. I think Lucki loved the embrace too. Maybe like Rosemary Barton of the CBC, she loves Trudeau and enjoys her time with him very much. And I don't know, thinks of it as some sort of platonic date or something. Lucki's not going to investigate her platonic boyfriend. Are you kidding? Look at that. Just one last time. That's the head of the RCMP, handpicked by Trudeau in July. The camera, the shots in July, well after the snc-lavalin scandal broke. You know, Donald Trump did not collude with the Russians. That's the formal result of an inquiry of, 2 years, hundreds of subpoenas issued, hundreds of interrogations under oath. They found nothing, and were they hunting? A team of, 24 lawyers, all of them Democrats? That's how the most powerful man in the world was held to account. In Canada, our head of the RCMP gives our Prime Minister a hug and a kiss. And his assistant, his clerk, his nanny, tells the RCMP, "I'm so sorry, Trudeau can't come to the phone right now. He's busy. Can we talk after the election?" And in Canada, the RCMP accepts it. Obviously, Trudeau's CBC state broadcaster will accept it too. The question we'll all find out is, will voters Except this. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.